Oh, I can't get up front, so I'm just doing it from here. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Marcus Miller. I'm the director here. And I'm not going to be introducing the artists that are part of Nuit Blanche. I'm just going to very, very briefly introduce our curator, Wayne Baerwaldt, who's, you all know Wayne, but I'm just going to briefly go through a quick list of great things that he's accomplished in his career. He was at Plug-in from 88 to 2000. He was at the power plant. He curated the Paradise Institute for the Venice Biennale in 2001. He's done Nuit Blanche in Toronto, Nuit Blanche in Calgary, and finally he's graduated to Saskatoon to do art at Nuit Blanche.
Made it. We got here on time. We're with two Cubans, you know, and they move a little slower, right? So it's like 35 degrees in Cuba. So I get it. But, so we don't have much time today. We're going to do something fast and furious. Everyone knows a little bit about Nuit Blanche here. There have been 2 iterations already. The current one, coming up on Saturday, deals in a roundabout way with food or cuisine as this agent of change, or anything in between. You know, from salt or the essentials of life to a bison pie, which is the, probably, I'm hoping it can be seen as this wonderful gift that Adrian gives to the city of Saskatoon and the people of Saskatoon as he exits stage left to Alberta on Sunday. I know, the worst. But open invitation to return to Saskatoon, I'm sure. So we're going to start with Adrian. He's going to talk, everyone's going to talk very briefly about their current project for Nuit Blanche and not get into their archive at all if we can help it. So just giving you a taste and hoping that you come out on Saturday. And again, meet with some of the artists if you don't get to talk to them today.
Thank you, Wayne, and speed presentation. Thank you so much for including me in this year's Nuit Blanche. It's lovely. And also I'd like to thank Ricardo, who's been photographing the process and collaborating over the last little while. So really lovely to see Ricardo when we first met at the BAM Center a number of years ago. So for those of you who do or don't know Buffalo Boy, that's Buffalo Boy, the campy quotation Indian cowboy based on Buffalo Bill and his Wild West shows, who was actually born right here at this university, just over there in archaeology, a number of years ago when I did my master's. So Buffalo Boy has probably had to date maybe up to 100 and some more performances, and there's a book and a number of other things. But really Buffalo Boy is sort of based on a number of different things, including the indigenous trickster character, the contrary, somebody who mirrors back society for them to consider themselves in a different way. So tomorrow night is Buffalo Boy, let them eat pie. It's not a religious thing, but food is a religious thing. And so I'll be making our bison pies. Of course, my Buffalo Boy also talks about the history of the bison, in particular the slaughter of the bison, the 75 million bison in North America, which had a great impact on my people, the Blackfoot, and the Plains tribes in general. So for me, the Buffalo Boy sort of looks at that whole history of the bison and the slaughter and the resulting starvation of people on the prairies. And so Buffalo Boy has done a number of performances looking at that history in a critical way. Buffalo Boy often uses humor as part of it to bring forward some of these issues, not in a funny way to open the door, but hopefully through that process people are brought closer to these issues and work through and understanding the impact of those issues, not only on Indigenous people, but all of us today in our political realities. So the last few days have been out, Best Saskatchewan has got, what was the name of them? Best of Saskatchewan, the food company went out.
Saskmade.
Saskmade, sorry, Saskmade. Saskmade was one of our sponsors, so they're getting all good earth products to us, and then we went out to the market and got our own things. We got a buffalo cookie cutter to cut out some buffalo stuff. Oh, but you also have to have the lipstick and the nail polish, because you have to look really pretty when you're cooking. Why cook if you don't look good? It's like, come on. Saskatoons for the topping on the pies. You always have to have bacon in everything you do. These are herb bombs from the herbs I grew at my own garden in Manitou Beach. So this all comes together. These aren't bison pies, these are actually turkey pies, but I thought you had to have a visual. So, so these would be very similar to the pies that we made, except they'll be much prettier, believe me. Even found the 4-directional napkins, can you believe that? So yeah, that super warehouse place, they have amazing stuff. So then, of course, Buffalo Boy in all his splendor. And so I'll have that opportunity to do a 30-minute performance 6 times Saturday night at Victoria Park. And it's kind of based a little bit, okay, this is the end there, on, I just want to show you just a brief clip of my history is of cooks and stuff. Oh, come on. Is this fellow, okay, how come on this one? Oh, there we go. I don't know if anybody remembers.
Now, what you do, you just get, whilst that's just mounting out there, oh my lord, this, you can flame this in kirsch. Go, baby. Right, so that's flaming in kirsch. That's good. Now, now, this, something's going to happen soon.
So imagine this as Buffalo Boy.
I'm going to design one of these with a vacuum plug at the top. So we'll get there. How would you like to go in there and help them? It's okay. Do you think that I don't know that I've run out of time? Here we go. I'm not going to be beaten. You don't really want to know what I think of this, do you? I'm going to get back. It kills me. Come on. Come on now, come on, come on. This time, come on, please. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, I'll see you through life beating me. I can't do it.
There you go. So that's kind of my inspiration for this piece, but also an opportunity, because when I first came to Saskatoon, I did mini bison pies, and so on my way out, they're a bit bigger.
Hey.
Thank you, Adrian. And watch out for Ricardo. He's going to be recording everything around the pavilion, so no releases either. So everything's up for use. So thanks again for Ricardo coming here from Berlin. Christine Kirouac is here.
Me? Now?
I think so. Why not?
You want to go first?
Yeah, no, he's after you.
Oh, he's not. Okay.
So Christine is here from Winnipeg. She's a video artist. She's a performance artist. I first met with her last century when she was boxing in wedding gowns with boxing mitts and a cup of tea and pounding the other girl, even though the other girl was a boxer, a professional boxer. So we've come a long way since then. And now she's doing something very different here, a bit of an homage to her father, who was a chef, who some of us know from CBC, who used to cook and barbecue in the park in Winnipeg. And that was basically a starting point for this new piece that she's premiering here.
Right, so I'm going to speed along as well, do a speed talk. So, like Wayne said, I'm an interdisciplinary artist, and in the early 90s, when 88, 90, when I met Wayne in Winnipeg, I was the first female boxer in Manitoba in the early 90s, which actually kind of meant something at that time in sort of a feminist discourse. So I proceeded to sort of struggle with displacement and personal belonging as an adopted person, also as a Métis person. We didn't find out about that until I was 26. So I started to physically fight in Europe, and I'm just going to open these. And across Canada. Why is that not opening? Tech man. Anyway, okay. So I did 12 years or a little less of interdisciplinary work around women and boxing and sex and violence and porn and sort of researching struggle through this physical means. This is in Winnipeg. I did a film called Girl on Girl Action. Yeah. Oh, I see.
Try.
No.
How about here?
Can we open that all open in preview?
You should.
Yeah. Okay. No. Why? Okay. So during that time, kind of like Buffalo Bill, I created this foxy boxing porno queen named Chrissy Virtue, who I used as a way to talk about some of those gender issues and politics and femininity, masculinity, all that sort of popular stuff around that time. But as Wayne mentioned, I come from a whole family who is in the restaurant business. I was adopted into a restaurant business. My family are chefs, and I'm the only one in the family not to be involved in our restaurant business for my whole life. So all my brothers and sisters, nephews and nieces, they're all involved somehow in it. And I worked in our restaurant, you know, when in my teens, in my 20s, I quit, they fired me, I came back, I quit, they fired me. So in the meantime, I was running around Europe and Banff Center and kind of doing my thing, but I could always come back and quit and get fired. So that worked for me. But food has always been super important in my life. So after I went to grad school at 33 to Concordia, and the first piece I made was called Hybrid, and it's a piece I did with my mom here, my adopted mom, where we have a conversation about what she knew 48, almost now years ago, about my Aboriginalness as an adopted kid who was blonde and pink and did not have the sort of physical attributes of an Aboriginal person. So, because I'm also Irish. So this is the first time that I actually stepped behind the camera. I'm speaking with her, and I felt like I had a little more time. I would play a clip if I was a bit more prepared, but it's on my website. But we have this conversation while I tell jokes that are bad internet jokes about Aboriginal and Irish jokes about drinking and yeah, never, you know, why should you never throw rocks at someone with bikes, with riding a bike? Because it might be your bike. I didn't made it right. Like bad stuff like that, like horrible jokes. And my mom's sort of reaction to those that is really in her kind of inability to get the sarcasm is funnier than. So that was, and she's actually, this video is her making a pumpkin pie, and it's an instructional video, as only my mom can do it, of how to make a homemade pumpkin pie. And it was at Thanksgiving. So that was sort of a watershed piece for me. It's a really shitty video with really crappy audio, but it was the first time I actually started to think about what food meant to my family. So that's her there. And that also, actually, funny, I just realized today is also split screen. So she kind of, I had edited it in a split screen for reasons that I can't go into right now, but interestingly, the piece that's in the show, Nuit Blanche, is also split screen. So I moved to North Carolina, and and my father was, as Wayne mentioned, one of the early food chefs, not quite as comedic as the Galloping Gourmet, but for CBC he was doing a show called Charcoal Chef, and it was in the mid-70s, before, as was Galloping Gourmet, before like Food Network and before all of the sort of sheen and the shine and the prep and all that, when you have to do stuff in real time and it doesn't always work out like you want it to. So that's him on the right, and CBC went into digital. And so they translated all of their film into digital, and they only had one episode. And so he died in 1990 when I was 20. And so I actually wanted to, even though I was away and detached from it, what I kind of wanted to say about this work specifically was the fact that in order to get closer to him as a person, I actually had to move back. So I hired two North Carolina local actors to play opposite him as his daughter. And so this is shot in North Carolina, and this is shot in Winnipeg, and it's like 30 years apart, sort of They had they talked to each other across this time, and you know, a lot of people ask me, well, why isn't it you? Why aren't you in it? And I thought, well, you know, I feel like I need to get that distance in order for it to not be therapy or too nostalgic or sentimental. And what was interesting is through working with these two women, which did the exact script as the guy, his co-host. So I actually learned more about him through these strangers. That he never actually looks at the camera. He's actually quite shy, and he's a little bit arrogant. And so I was seeing all these new things that, as a father figure, I never noticed, but as a personality, a media personality, were definitely there. But I had seen that through their eyes, and so I'm interested in, when I'm working with really personal material that starts to get very hard, I pull back and look at it through different lenses and from different perspectives, which actually makes me, I think, do better work as opposed to getting too attached to the work. So this is the piece that's here in Nuit Blanche. It's the first time it's shown in Canada. Actually, it's screened before in Chicago and Berlin, but it's never shown here in Canada. And so I'm really excited that it's an installation somewhere around near a river, I think. And please come and see it. It's the length of an actual episode, and come in and, yeah, good?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That was great. Next we have Franz Wassermann, who is here from Vienna. And if you looked at the Star Phoenix today, piece of work of his is in there, and what he does here in Saskatoon will be slightly different, but anyway, take it away, Franz.
So, I'm proud to be invited in Nuit Blanche. So I will say thank you to you, Wayne, and all to the others who helped me. I'm an artist, I work very political. And I made performances. This will be one of my main parts that I made in my artwork. I also make videos and photographs, but the main part will be performances. In the performances, in these big projects, I always include the public scene. So the visitor will be a part of the art, of my art. So that's the reason why I call myself, I'm a virus, and I will infect you. And also that you understand why I wear a suit. When I go public, of course, first I need it when I go into a performance. It seems like to change my position from the private person into the artist person, and it will protect me. The second reason will be in the public space. When I wear a suit, I had made a performance in Innsbruck. This was the first where I wear the suitcase. Sorry, not the suitcase. How can I get down? Sorry, I have an apple, so I don't know how it works. Okay. Thank you. Oh. Sorry. How will it work? Yeah, get down. Get down. Okay. Oh no, we must go. Up. A little bit. So.
Here, we just go with your 2 fingers on that.
Yeah. Okay. So stop. That's. Everybody has the title to break. This was my first performance where I wear the suit, and it was in Innsbruck. It was in a public space, and I taped a man and a woman to the. How does it work? I want to open the picture. okay. Okay. So, anyway. The picture, the how you say, the
Billboard?
Yeah, thank you. The picture will show a very political, how to say it, yeah, image. Thank you. Of course, this image will look like during the Nazi regime. Of course, it's a rising sun, and there are mountains, and there are a family. You see man, woman, boy, girl, and the woman will be blonde and she will be pregnant. And the boys and the girls also blonde and have blue eyes. And in Austria we have chocolate, and it's called Milka. It's very famous in Europe. And so I react about this image. And so I put the bodies from a man and from a woman on the border.
Billboard.
On the photo. On the billboard.
On the billboard, thank you. On the billboard. And then when they go away, they take the information from the billboard with them. So, and by this performance, people called the police. Of course, it was illegal. And then I go, after the performance, the police will come to me, and I go to the police, but they scan me, but they think I will be a businessman. So I go through the police and go home. I was safe. This is the reason why I'm a virus. Yeah. So, you understand? So, and now, for Saskatoon, you see I have a history with tapes. And in Saskatoon, I have made specially for Saskatoon performance. This or how can I get that? That's so sorry. So, and always important part in my work will be, when I started as an artist, I take all the objects from the audience. So one of my famous projects was called Barbie and Ken are HIV positive. And this project was all over Austria and later in London and in Munich. And I asked the people who have HIV that they will give me all the objects. It could be a newspaper, it could be anything else. It could be personal, it could also be abstract. And then I install it in the public space with the billboard, that's right?
Billboard? Yeah.
Billboard, it's called Barbie and Ken are HIV positive. So I take object who has a history in his, it has a history of a person or of the collective. In the last years I open it and I will create objects, things like you see Heldenplatz with the flags, or after the side there will be We Me with protests, so that the people will work with them, so the object will get the history and will be build the history with the public. And that's the same what I will do here in Saskatoon. Of course I will make, the project is called Me, Myself and I. And it means the self-control that we have now inside of ourselves. Of course, I have made very much work and working about the history in Austria and Germany with the Nazi regime. And yeah, I know it's very provocant, but when I say when Adolf will come back, he will be very happy. Of course, the people will control themselves more than the Nazis have done. So it's the propaganda of the Yeah. Well, my English is not so bad. So, me, myself, and I is a reaction. Thank you. Wayne asked me to make an art piece or performance specially for the place in the public gym. And he told me the theme will be eating food. So first I was shocked when he sent me some pictures. I think, what do you want? But then I go in my side and I'm thinking, and then I got, this will be the output. Of course I will take person on the machines, and it's, for me it's important that it will be a gaffer tape in the silver color, so that you think that the human and the machine will be one. And the people must say a positive affirmation. Of course it reminds me about the film American Beauty. I don't know if you know this film. And the woman from this man, she was a businesswoman, and she has always a CD with I am perfect, I will be perfect, I will be the best, I will do this. So I will also work with this layer, so that the people who will be the volunteers and part of the performance, they must stay there and say these positive affirmations. I have 100% of my life under control, or I am the best. So I have hundreds of positive affirmations, and so you can take one, and then you will stay on the machine and always talk this. And then I will take you to the machine and take you on. Yeah, I do what you do with yourself. When I'm the master, I will show how you do. So, that's what I want to do today, on Saturday, sorry. And I will ask if someone will be volunteer for me, so I will be very proud and we will be a part of them. And I will promise I will be safe. It looks only very hard. So, I will say thank you to the audience and
Very good.
I don't know if you caught that last part, but he was actually pitching, soliciting volunteers. So if we had the lights up, we could see your arms going up and everyone getting involved, right, Franz?
yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully, yeah, people, if you are interested in becoming a part of art history, in this piece by Franz. Okay. You have a meltdown. Okay, now we have, still on time, I think. We have Olga Chagaoutdinova, who is here from Havana, and Wilfredo, Candebat, Lusson. They've been working separately. They have solo careers. Olga is known for photo-based work and some installation work, I would say, and now more so video work and installation performative work. She's been living in Canada for 15 years, 12 years, 16 years before moving to Havana about 2 years ago, but has been going to Havana for 8 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, met Wilfredo. Wilfredo is a playwright and an actor, both on the stage and in film. Has worked in film production as well, and is also working in the area of performance, sometimes in a solo performance and sometimes now, certainly in collaboration with Olga. So they're here from Havana to do something a little different, kind of quite experimental, a durational piece that should last about 6 hours, from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m., and explores a whole variety of subjects related to food, or actually maybe food at the center of their work. As if you're having a cup of tea, you start by maybe talking about the tea, but then the conversation expands to a wide range of issues, from race relations to Soviet-Cuban relations over the last 20 years, to indigenous foods that are popular in the south of Cuba and are now integrated into Cuban culture, and many other subjects. So they're going to be doing this sort of like an absurd, you know, theater in the round performance in Victoria Park. But the background of this and a bit of content is going to be provided now by Olga.
I don't even know what to say, you already said everything. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show a little bit of the performance where we collaborated for the first time, and then I'll talk about it. I'll say what I'm going to talk about. Oh. We all Macintosh users, so...
Yeah, so.
Where is that? Yeah. Here? There is no icon.
Can you try open with and open it with a different program?
So yeah, we'll see what. So this installation was in the Havana Public Park, where I was confronting the people who was passing by. So Wilfredo was explaining to them, and he was kind of directing them that they have to touch. They allowed to touch me, and they allowed to tell a story through the touch, so that I can feel and I can react. It was one take.
They're telling stories, but you can't hear them?
No,
Okay, but they're telling stories.
telling no, they're silent through the touch of telling stories. So what was interesting is that in the beginning, people were very kind of quiet, and they was afraid to touch me, or they was shy. And then you can see with the time, they just start playing with me, like I become like an object of from one side of challenge. It was quite violent. Like one man was just like scratching my back and then touching my face, and it was a challenge. first of all, it was a challenge for me. So coming from, I've been professionally trained in photography as a photographer, like artist who using photography, and then slowly I moved into the performance and testing, like looking at my body as an instrument of developing ideas and as an instrument of creating metaphors. But in this performance particularly, it was very challenging of allowing to the public, to the most intimate area of the body, like head and neck, and I was observing how violent it could be. Even like a very, very innocent gesture can be very violent. So starting from one point or testing one idea, I came into the realization of many other ideas. So Wilfredo was there and he was helping to direct. He was not directing, he was just explaining what they can do, just to tell this story. So it was one of the first performances that I'm a very hard person to collaborate with. I have to admit that. Sorry. I don't know how, like, I appreciate all artists who work collaboratively because I have only my idea and I'm gonna go to like my highway. And he's the same because you know he was trained. So and I think that in a way when Wayne visited us, like we always cooking, we always have guests, and then I think that it kind of the way how we fight. Well, we not fight. It's our way. Like I guess our way of living is fighting, which is exhausting. So, but it's kind of we're searching for some ourselves or balance, and that kind of Wayne started to think about how we can bring that, because you know in some way we have a similar background growing up in communism, but with Wilfredo who were witnessing period before Cuban Revolution, and I had experience to live after Perestroika in Soviet Union, in Russia after Perestroika. So we have so many common and differences in our personal histories that now came together, and that's what we are going to talk about. It would be a first public kind of a dramatic performance for me in Saskatoon. Well, of course, he is the master of dramatic art, and that's something that he feels like a fish in the water. I will try to follow his direction. So we have a script, we have our ideas, but I think the luxury of being in this festival and to have this kind of a studio to test ideas and to perform is a great thing. And what we have decided to do that, although we have written script and play that we will follow, we will have 50% of improvisation, or like we will improvise and then we will talk about ideas and food, like, you know, even for the last couple of days. It's actually the first time him to be in North America, so it's a big thing, and he looks at things like he never had cereal or granola in the morning. Because it's a different culture, so we are looking through things that is familiar, but we're trying to look, and I think all of the artists who presented their work giving us a different perspective to the ordinary things. And I think that's the most important that artists can do. And I'm actually already inspired by looking at your work, guys. Thank you very much, and thanks to Wayne, and thanks for coming and listening to us.
Mentioned that some of the artists are working with students here. Olga and Wilfredo, for example, are working with students from Jennifer Crane's class in photography, which is great, and some of them came out last night to be with the artists and talk generally about different approaches to documentation and to share ideas about what could be different about documenting their performance on Saturday. So we're really grateful to Jennifer. Jennifer's here, but some of the students are here, which is really good. Also, Adrian and Ricardo are working with Susan Chance's class in sculpture, talking about their work in terms of social sculpture. So they're going to be meeting over the next week, which is really great. So again, thanks to the artists for meeting with the students and actually, in many cases, working with them on the performances on site. So it really goes beyond just a general one-to-one meeting and goes into the real working process and maybe transferring some of these ideas around professional practice to students that really need that sort of support right now. But I wanted to thank Marcus for allowing us to be here in an impromptu way and supporting this in a great way. We really appreciate it. And again, students and faculty that have come out to support this. And you'll see some of the artists here over the next week, I think up until next Wednesday. So please stop them and have a chat. So thank you.